You don't need it. And it uses 1% of the water that would normally be necessary using traditional farming methods because of the technological advancement of the system. And I do have a handout that I will give all of you later, or it's also on the USB drive, that they handed out. Okay, well I do have paper versions, and I have links to all of the places that I'm talking about. So you can actually go and research it and read more about it than I can give now. You had a...
No, I was just saying that it started in Japan actually because they were using bank vaults and to provide for the companies and that's where vertical farming started, as far as I know. And so they use like unused spaces to grow their own vegetables for their catering needs.
Right. So an additional part to food is free-range livestock farming using the land freed up after a significant amount of commercial real estate is returned to nature. I want you to think about how many malls, banks, and other large-scale facilities suck up real estate. If you didn't have a monetary system, you wouldn't necessarily have to have those systems in place. You would have distribution centers. You would still have facilities to either go and get the products that you would want to have, or they could even be delivered to you through automated GPS-controlled transportation, which does exist. And I'll get to the transportation in a moment. But the point is that if you could return a lot of that land back to nature, you no longer have to put cows in little stocks this big. You can let them go back to nature and free-range farm. It can still be monitored and controlled to a point by technology with swinging gates and rotate the farm so they eat the grass here and then you open the gate and they move on to the next set and they can get into a habit. It's a much healthier lifestyle for the animals. They're going to have a much better life through the course of their lifespan. And the nutritional content of the meat, I am a meatitarian. I know a lot of people here at this conference are vegetarians, but I am not. Now, I will say this, if we can ever synthesize meat to where it looks like meat, tastes like meat, has the nutritional content of meat, but we don't have to kill animals to get it, I'm all for it. Go ahead. I'll eat that instead. That's fine. We'll save all the animals. But until then, I like my steak. So this mixed with advanced technological systems for monitoring and shepherding as needed, and extensive fish farming as opposed to intensive fish farming. There is a link I have provided that goes into a discussion. It was actually a TED conference discussion about extensive versus intensive fish farming and how a gentleman created a fish farm that is symbiotic with nature and is significantly more robust than the current fish farming techniques that they have employed that are more industrialized. So technology doesn't necessarily mean everything's metal and boxes and things like that. It also means how can we use nature as efficiently as possible and still get the same results. Technology doesn't necessarily mean plugging everything in. Water, desalinization plants, local rain collector facilities, centrifugal centers, things of that nature all exist. Poor nations can't afford them, but again, if we get off this monetary trip and realize that we have the natural resources to make these facilities, we have a way to distribute the water from them to the regions, there's no reason whatsoever why we shouldn't implement them. An example would be NASA 2008, a portable nanomesh creates safer drinking water. I have a link to that in the handout, so you guys can research that and see what NASA developed that will help.
So with desalinization, you could create safe water?
Out of the ocean. You would suck the water right out of the ocean. It would be a coastal facility, and and you would bring it right out and clean it up.
Did you see the TED thing what Bill Gates done is that water is the biggest cause of conflict in the next century?
Yeah, the shortage of water will be kind of a World War III thing if it gets out of control. I've heard that. Let's try and stop that before it happens.
There's also a bottle for life that has a nanotechnology filter, and you can put filthy water in it, shake it, goes through the filter, and you can drink it straight away. So for people in drought situations or earthquakes, we got those bottles to them. They can just drink the water there, they can shake it, and they can drink it. They don't have to go to refugee camps.
I forgot about that. That's another good technology. Basically instant clean water. So the technology we have is amazing, but most people
Are
just
they
don't
for
know
sale
it.
already?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they are. Bottle for life is good.
Because I cross sometimes oceans and
Yeah.
as a last reserve of water, it would be good to have that.
So, yeah, it's
Mhm.
an English guy that brings
Sleep. This comes more easily when the stress and labor requirements are such that adequate sleep is easy to come by. I mean, a lot of people are working multiple jobs or, having to deal with financial issues that just puts them mentally over the bend. And sleep, we might sleep, but I don't think a lot of us have slept in a really long time. A true, comfortable, deep sleep. Some might, maybe the billionaires, but I have to say a lot of percentage of the world isn't sleeping very well. So if we can cover these biological needs, that will help alleviate a lot of those stresses and allow them to have a good night's sleep. Medical care. Medical advances are obvious in the 21st century and can even be more robust if done for human advancement instead of for profit, especially in America. The profit-based motives for keeping people healthy is kind of counterintuitive, don't you think? They get paid when you're sick. It should be the flip. If they're going to do it monetarily, they should only get paid when you're healthy. And when you get sick, they have to fix it on their dime. But it doesn't quite work that way. So, with cost as a non-factor, there's no lack of availability for the advancement of medical care for all people. And also, robotics is helping doctors do procedures remotely if necessary. Better, safer, and with a faster recovery time for the patients. And I have links to videos that show this technology, how it works, and the doctors talking about it. So now let's look at abundant solution sets for quality of life needs. Shelter. There's a technology called contour crafting. Is anybody familiar with contour crafting? Okay. It's in development right now by a professor at the University of Southern California. He already has a small-scale prototype version of it that works really well. Is anybody familiar with 3D printing?
Yeah.
Okay. Take that and put it on an industrial scale to where basically it's a self-erecting structure. Here's what you would do. You'd have your plot of land. The machine would drive up, erect itself, put itself together, and then draw out, it'll have the blueprints, the computerized blueprints in its computer-based system of how the house is supposed to look. It can build the house and wire it and plumb it, a 2,000 square foot house, in about 24 hours. All right? Shape memory alloy. Now, imagine you using the contour crafting technology in Haiti after everything fell to pieces. Being able to build a 2,000 square foot house in a day, put up 15 or 20 of these robots to clear off the rubble, set these things up, and you're basically cookie cutting houses for people to get back in. And they're solid, robust, they're made out of advanced concrete mesh materials. They're set up in a way to where they would withstand future earthquakes. They can be engineered as such. The professor who is pioneering this technology has a lot of fantastic ideas, but what he lacks is money to do it. So he's having a hard time getting the funding to build the full-scale, large-size prototypes. Although NASA is interested because you can build a moon base that way too, especially if it's robotic. You don't have to worry about sending astronauts there. It can build a facility, or at least start a facility first. Then you would send the astronauts to kind of detail it out after that.
And gravity.
Well, it'd be a little easier with the less gravity in most cases. So, shape memory alloys. Anybody familiar with what a shape memory alloy is? Okay. Basically, if you had a spring made of this, it was set as a spring first, then it was cured. You could stretch that thing out, completely destroy it, bend it, crank it, and everything. Put a blow dryer up to it, and it would go right back to being a spring. The metal remembers what its initial shape was when it was cured in that shape. So imagine creating a dome or a structure facility that's cured in its final form, looking like a house or an establishment. But when you cool it or you pass electricity through it, it actually flattens out. So you stack up a whole bunch of those on a train system or whatever, and you ship it to wherever you need to ship it to. And then when you get there, you set these things up and you plug them in and they go, and they pop up. All right? The technology exists. Clothing and other products. I go back to the 3D printing. You can do localized, you could do it in your own house if you had a 3D printer. If you saw online a piece of clothing that you liked and you had access to the material, the raw materials, you could go grab the materials, put it in the 3D printing set or whatever the case may be, and press a button and it will build that for you, custom to your size. In fact, you could custom tailor every piece of clothing that you want that fits. Everybody's body is different. We have standardized sizes now, small, medium, large, whatever. But imagine if you could custom tailor every piece of clothing you had all the way down to your t-shirts in your own house from whatever that you like. It also drastically reduces shipping needs if the only thing you're sending is the blueprint electronically to the computer that then prints up or basically sews together your clothes for you. Plus, you could probably invent your own clothes. Make up your own stuff. You'd literally be your own stylist. You know what, I like a little of that and I like a little of that, so I'm going to put it together and look, I'm my own, you know.
But you need to ship tissues,
Materials?
Where do you get the materials?
Yeah, you would still, that would be the part that you would need to ship, but you could do that in mass.
Well, if I get a container to my home, I don't know what to do.
Well, no, you would you would go to the distribution center, like you would go to Joann Fabrics or Linens and things, or I don't know what you guys have in Europe, but a fabric store, and get the fabrics that you want, take it home and put it together for you. Education. Internet-based education centers that are globally connected can educate humanity as never before possible in human history. We don't really have, it's good, but we don't have to have human physical interaction to educate anymore. We can put computer centers in rural, remote parts of the world and still give them high quality access to advanced educations by experts in the field and world-renowned professors in the form of video lectures. And as we all know, I'm sure, how many people have been using Skype while they've been here to talk to friends and loved ones and stuff? You can do conference calls in the same manner, where the professor is on one end and the class of 5 to 10 or whatever is on the other end, and they can still directly interact and ask questions. So there are no longer geographical limitations, thanks to our communication capabilities, to educate the world. And education is one of the most key steps to advancing human civilization anyway. Significantly more teachers might also be available, since now their quality of life is not determined by income. How many people do you know, or just think of your personal circle or maybe extended circle, that would like to be a teacher, but they don't do it because it doesn't pay well enough? That they would, they would really enjoy doing that, but they don't, because it's just not equitable. Whereas in the resource-based economic system, there's no longer a restriction to be that person, to be that teacher. And another thing to consider is how many people die every day from starvation? Imagine how many of those might be Einsteins, but we never knew it. How many minds have we lost that could have done amazing things? So, education is a quality of life need that can easily be addressed through advanced communication systems, in concert with everything else that I'm talking about. This is a holistic approach. This isn't a one-shot fix. So let's go to energy, clean energy. I hate burning stuff. It's ridiculous. It's the caveman approach to energy systems. You have terrestrial solar, space-based solar, wind, wave, tidal, geothermal, fuel cell, and ocean thermal energy conversion. There is no one-stop shop, save the world energy set, where you only do one thing. Not yet, anyway. Not until we develop some amazing anti-gravity, super generative energy system. But for now, until we learn something new, these exist